Okay, so the crypto market just went through something that absolutely shook thousands of traders. But what if that insane crash wasn't just a total disaster? What if it was actually a reset? A moment that clears the noise and shows us what's really going on. Let's dig into that. Look, this wasn't just some minor pullback. We are talking about the single largest liquidation event in the entire history of crypto. Billions with a B just gone. And the speed was just brutal. I mean, think about it. Positions that took people months, maybe even years to carefully build, they were completely erased in just a few hours. Now, before we really get into the nuts and bolts of this, I want to be clear. My heart really does go out to anyone who got caught up in this. It is a painful, painful lesson to learn, but it can also be a really important turning point if you let it. So, what on earth caused this financial shockwave? To understand it, we've got to break down exactly what happened step by step. So the trigger, right, the spark that lit the fuse, was headlines. Political chatter about maybe putting 100% tariffs on China. But here's the thing you have to understand. The market doesn't just react to news. The market moves because really big players know how to use that news as a weapon to create pure panic. And that panic gets amplified 1,000 times over by one single thing: leverage. On one side, you've got people trading with leverage, basically using borrowed money to make these massive bets. In a market this wild, it's pretty much a shortcut to getting completely wiped out. And on the other side, you have a much more boring but prudent approach, building a position over time. That method is specifically designed to survive these exact kinds of storms. But look, this whole thing isn't just about charts and numbers. At its core, it's a psychological game. So let's talk about who the players are, and more importantly, how they win. The market is really just a battle between two different mindsets. You've got the retail trader who's often driven by raw emotion, fear, and greed. They buy when prices are high and everyone's euphoric, and they panic sell at the bottom. Then you've got the smart money, the big institutions. They do the exact opposite. They see widespread fear not as a danger, but as a massive buying opportunity. And this isn't really about being smarter. It's about having discipline. During a crash, wealth doesn't just vanish into thin air. It just changes hands. It flows from people who can't control their panic to those who have the patience to wait for the storm to pass. Okay, and this is where we have to completely shift our focus. It's time to zoom way out from the chaos of the daily price charts and look at the enormous transformation that's happening just beneath the surface. An event like this really forces you to ask a pretty critical question. While everybody is glued to their screens watching these red and green candles, are we all missing the real story? Focusing on these tiny, short-term price moves is often a distraction from the fundamental infrastructure that's being built for the future. And that infrastructure is blockchain. And let's be clear, this isn't just some tech trend. It's the necessary evolution of our entire financial system. The system we use now is ancient, it's slow, and it's incredibly expensive. Blockchain lets value move around the world just like an email, instantly and cheaply. This isn't an optional upgrade for the future. It is absolutely essential. And this right here is exactly where XRP enters the picture. It was designed from day one with a very specific, very important purpose inside this new system. XRP is not a meme coin. It's not a speculative plaything. Its one core mission is to solve one of the biggest headaches in global finance: moving money across borders. It's built to be a bridge asset, a neutral, hyper-efficient way for banks and institutions to send value to each other in seconds. It's not here to kill the banks, it's here to give them a massive upgrade. And the scale of what we're talking about here is just mind-boggling. We are talking about the tokenization of all real-world assets. Just try to imagine trillions of dollars in things like real estate, stocks, bonds, all of it represented as digital tokens on a blockchain. For a system that big to work smoothly, you need an incredibly efficient asset at the center to provide all the liquidity. So this leads us to the million-dollar question, right? If the long-term potential is this massive, why does the price today feel so disconnected from that? Well, it really boils down to two big reasons. First up is accumulation. When the big players decide they want to buy an asset, the last thing they do is pump the price. No, they want it quiet, they want it boring, they want it stable so they can load up their bags without anybody noticing. And the second reason is regulation. For years, all the legal uncertainty kept the major institutions on the sidelines. But now, that clarity is finally starting to appear, and that's the green light they've all been waiting for.
So with all that said, how do you play this? Let's get practical. This is all about shifting your mindset away from short-term gambling and towards long-term building. Probably the simplest and most powerful strategy out there is dollar cost averaging, or DCA. The whole idea is you stop trying to perfectly time the bottom. Nobody can do that. Instead, you just invest a consistent amount over time, regularly. This simple move pulls all the emotion out of the game and lets you build a really strong position with pure discipline, no matter what the daily chart looks like. And a strategy like that requires the single most valuable skill in this entire market: patience. I mean, think about the people who invested in Amazon or Apple in the early days. It wasn't a smooth ride up. They had to sit through massive crashes and long, boring periods. Patience is the strategic choice to hold on when everyone else is giving up and running for the exits.
In a market literally designed to prey on your emotions, the biggest advantage you can have isn't being a genius. It's having rock-solid emotional control and a very, very long time horizon. So after seeing how these market events are engineered, the psychology behind them, and the huge long-term picture, the question you have to ask yourself is this: what's your strategy? Are you building a position in what could be a foundational piece of future technology, or are you just gambling on today's price movements? The answer to that one question, well, that's going to determine everything.